but at the end of the day, we were just outperformed, out-schemed, however you want to put it. Like, they had an answer for everything. And people saying, well, why ain't you go to linebacker? Because, you know, they said you could stop the run. Well, guess what? The packages are in for me to go to linebacker. There's multiple packages, multiple variations, but I can only play what it's called. Whatever they're calling, whoever personnel they're putting on, I'm not putting out personnel. I'm not putting out the calls. Nothing's coming from me. So you could put that and put that wherever you want to be or wherever you want to put it, but they're not coming from me. The packages are in. I've even told multiple players, coaches, that I'm very fine playing linebacker. In playoffs, if that's what y'all want me to do, I just want to win. And you can ask any coach, ask any player that. It's a God-honest truth. Because obviously this is not where I want to be sitting right now, speaking to you, talking about what we're doing at the Pro Bowl. And that's just the reality of it. I do see a Super Bowl in my future. I want to be a Super Bowl champion. And it's very upsetting that I'm even here, having to even speak to y'all and trying to say if I really care about the game and if I'm showing up in playoffs. I challenge anyone to actually go look at the game film and say, did Micah play his heart out in that game, and what more could I have done? You know, and, you know, it's sad, man, that you lose the way you do, especially at home, talking about how much we played at home, how much it stood for us to be at home, and to go out like that at home was completely embarrassing.
You know what? It sounds a lot like Micah Parsons is saying exactly what a lot of us fans were saying after that loss to the Green Bay Packers. And Dan Quinn, you got some questions to answer, my boy. I know you sitting here waiting to see who the Washington Commanders hire as their next head coach. But if you come back to the Cowboys, this clip from Micah Parsons does nothing to instill confidence in me that you're going to do anything different than what we saw this season. Essentially, what Micah Parsons just did was an indictment of Dan Quinn and the way that he called the game defensively, and it showcased some of the deficiencies that we as fans have been clamoring about as it pertains to Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn does not adjust throughout a game. And I'm not talking about adjust a scheme or adjust a game plan. It's unreasonable to think that a team can adjust an entire game plan over the course of 15 minutes of halftime and really 10 minutes by the time those players get back there. That's unreasonable. But damn, throw a couple of different packages out there. Throw some different looks at the opposing team so they're not seeing the same exact holes play in, play out. And like Micah Parsons said, bro, the Packers just had an answer for literally everything that they were doing. And when a player says something like that, it's coming from a deeper level than just any old fan. And another thing, I'm super tired of being on the wrong side of the whole, oh, the other team just came in with an amazing game plan. They had an answer for everything. It feels like we've never had an opportunity to say that as Cowboys fans in like years. I don't know the last time we looked and we're like, damn, the Cowboys had the perfect game plan against that team in that big game. Haven't seen it. Micah Parsons is a guy that's playing the game at one of the highest levels in the entire National Football League. And if he can comfortably sit up here and say on his podcast in front of everybody, like he said, he's embarrassed, he doesn't want to actually be on there talking about that, he doesn't want to have that discussion, and I'm sure he's not going to look at the comments after he posts that podcast episode because, to be quite honest, it's just been difficult. It's been difficult. People have been emotional. People have been unreasonable. And all of this comes down to the team as a whole failed us. From the offense to quarterback to the receivers to the running backs to the defense as an entire unit, the team failed us. And now we for sure at least have some answers pertaining to what happened on the defensive side of the ball. Why did the defense just never clock into that game? Why did they never seem to engage in what was going on? We now have that answer. Dan Quinn and the way he called that game is the reason we saw that defense look like a fish out of water. Micah said it himself. I can only do what is called. I can only play the play that is called. I cannot just jump to linebacker. I can't just make decisions for myself on that field. The Cowboys have several packages in which Micah Parsons lines up as a linebacker, yet we refuse to use those packages to put bigger bodies on the field and put the team in a more advantageous position. You know what? This was the nail in the coffin for me as it pertains to any type of hopes for Dan Quinn coming back to the Dallas Cowboys, because Micah Parsons has been one of the biggest supporters of Dan Quinn since he's been here. He's been talking about how much he loves DQ and how DQ is like a father figure and all this other stuff. He's been saying all these positive things about Dan Quinn. So it means a lot for Micah Parsons to be able to come out and say, hey, this has everything to do with being out-schemed, out-game planned, and outplayed. Simple as that. So that's an indictment. That is a heavy indictment when your best player on the defense is coming out and saying something like this about the defensive coordinator. The Cowboys and the way that they've gone about handling their business is really starting to bother me, because at this point, they're just sitting on their hands. Why are they giving Dan Quinn all of the power in this situation? Why are the Cowboys not going out and doing interviews with defensive coordinators while Dan Quinn is out here doing interviews for head coaching positions? That way, if he actually does take a head coaching position, you've already started your process as a team as to what defensive coordinator you're thinking about bringing in here next. And that's important. That is a very, very important process to start, because you have to give whatever defensive coordinator comes in here, that DC has to have freedom to play this defense the way he wants to play it. Whether he wants to go to a 4-3, 3-4, whatever, as long as he gets us out of big nickel, I'm fine. I do not want to play any more big nickel or majority dime packages like we've been doing. Get some big athletic thumpers on the field. At this point, I know I made a video about Ron Rivera and why I was worried about him coming to the Cowboys as a defensive coordinator. But now that we have confirmation that Dan Quinn he quit. He gave up. He didn't even try. We didn't even try to see him do anything different. He didn't adjust his coverages. We saw those dudes lining up 10 yards off the ball the whole game outside on the corners. We saw the unbalanced defensive lines where it's just holes just waiting to be taken advantage of. I'm over the DQ experiment. I'm completely over it. But that wasn't the only thing that Micah talked about when he made his appearance on the Edge. He also had some interesting comments pertaining to his quarterback, Dak Prescott.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda been an MVP, but he's not. And to put that narrative, you know, people want to drive whatever narrative that fits best for them, and that's what I'm realizing about this game of football. And that's what kind of drives away the happiness, because people don't appreciate how good someone has been. They want to attack them for where they're at or what they have done and things like that. So I think Dak came a long way. Obviously, one of his better years since I've been with the Cowboys. So that narrative of we wanted a different quarterback or we want a different guy, I think he's been a great leader.
Side note, Micah Parsons looks extremely defeated right now. He seems frustrated, and I just genuinely hope that this type of embarrassing loss really propels that team to a different level, bro. Hopefully, Micah now understands, and it seemed like he does by what he said there. Hopefully, he now understands as a player, he has to have blinders on. He can't pay attention to all of that noise. Let people like us handle that stuff, bro. Now, the reason this is important to me is because, for one, people have been way too hard on Micah. Him and Dak Prescott have been the only two guys on this entire team that have come out and fell on the sword. Dak did it immediately after the game, which takes a lot of cojones to be able to do after an embarrassing performance like that. The rest of the players were essentially hiding from the media and have been hiding from the media, and then letting Dak take all of the blame for this loss this whole time and take all of the heat. None of the other players have said anything, spoken up, taken any type of accountability for what happened or anything, until we just heard Micah Parsons come out here and have a sit down and pretty much clear up a lot of things, including saying, hey man, what do you expect Dak Prescott to do? He's not going to be Superman. He cannot put up 40 points every single game. That is not going to happen. Micah has been seeing the criticism surrounding his quarterback. If the best player on the defense is still willing to come out in defense of his quarterback, and keep in mind, this dude is in the middle of a contract negotiation. Micah has no reason, he has no incentive to come out on behalf of Dak Prescott and speak out against the criticism that's being laid against him. So if he's willing to do this, knowing that this dude isn't even guaranteed to be here beyond this next season, that means that Dak Prescott has not lost that locker room, and I think that's the most important aspect of all of this as it pertains to figuring out who you want to lead your team. As long as the team believes that the guy at the helm can still get it done, then that's all that matters. Once you lose the locker room and the locker room doesn't have faith anymore, then you have a bigger issue, right? But Micah Parsons, super glad to finally hear from dude. I think he quelled a lot of the fears and anxieties that some of the fans have been feeling. And at this point, I'm just ready to get through all the drama. I hope the Joneses stop fanning the flames. I hope all the family members are done throwing shots at each other and doing all the crazy stuff. Let's just focus on the draft. Let's just focus on who's going to be our freaking defensive coordinator, because I do not want Dan Quinn back at all. And let's just hope for a freaking better season, or at least better outcome than this. At least embarrassing, bro. This is... Whew, I think I'm finally getting over it a little bit, y'all. I think I'm finally getting over it a little bit. How about you? Are you finally getting over the devastating loss that the Cowboys suffered in the playoffs? Or is the sun finally starting to shine on you a little bit? Or is it still pouring down raining? Let me know down in the comments below. Either way, y'all don't have to end these videos now. We still them same old damn Cowboys. I'll catch you on the next one.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.